Eric here. This is the second video for Advanced Builders. I'm going to go over how to create problems that have a bit more features than just problem, answer, hint. So I'm back in my Builder tab. This was the problem set I created in the last video. Still doesn't have any content in it. You can create content two ways. You can go edit this and then write new problems using the Builder. This takes you to the 5 at a time, the quick builder. But there are times when you're going to want a bit more details than what you can get to here. So instead of using the quick builder from that problem set, I'm going to go to the problems tab that's under the builder tab. I haven't built any problems yet, so let's make ourselves a new one. So it starts off, this is the problem identifying code, the PRA code. Let's give this a new name. Let's just call this basic problem. Okay, so if you've turned on in your preferences all the things I told you to, this is new. Variabilized problems I'll come to in another video. Let's just start with the basics. But variabilized is how you can create a template and from that churn out however many versions of that problem you would like using a little tiny bit of Ruby code. So this is the basic builder, pretty much the same as before. I have all the same types of answers that I did before. I didn't explain these two. Write a racket problem. This is for programmers. If you don't know what racket is, I don't know what racket is, probably never going to use this. Externally run. This is for outside researchers who have their own system that we can talk to through an iframe. If you're one of those folks, there's a lot more we can talk about. We'll probably have to do that through a phone call. Okay, also different from the quick builder, this is where the answers will be generated, and we can tell them if they are right or wrong. And then our tutoring strategies. Now here you've got, for the first time, two options of either hints or scaffolds. Hints will be quick messages that you create for the students, and you can do a series of these to step them through a problem or just give them a work solution. Scaffold will take the students into a brand new problem and ask them to solve the new problem. And so it's sort of your choice as to what kind of tutoring strategy you want to use. You can only use one tutoring strategy per problem. Also keep in mind, when you're creating problems this way, there's no auto generation of the bottom out hint. By that I mean the quick builder creates a hint that gives the student the answer. You have to make sure you do that here. If a student does not have an answer and they can't figure it out, they will not be able to move on to the next problem. Something to keep in mind. Okay, now we're going to go through the different components of a question. I already have one built. I figure you don't need to see me type. So here's a perfectly good physics question about a student throwing a baseball. You'll notice I've chosen to add in directions. For the students who are using the system, you have to remember they're entering their answers that are being graded by a computer, so they kind of have to modify their answers to make sure the system understands it. So I tend to give very explicit directions where I tell them, for instance, exactly what G to use, how to round their answer, making sure they enter only the numerical value, and I tell them what the units would be. All right, so that's question design, which I'll go over a bit more in a later video. Save the problem. This is a number. I want only the numerical value. We don't have any answers, though. Let's make some answers. So the correct answer to this is 1.8. Tell the system that's right. But you notice there's this box down here for a feedback message. Feedback message is what we call the message a student gets when they enter what we think is a common wrong answer. And I'd bet on this question that minus 1.8 would be a common wrong answer. So I would just give them, watch your signs. And hopefully that hint, which they will see if they type in minus 1.8, hopefully that's enough to get them to figure out what they did that was wrong. Okay, Good. Problem answers, no hints. So a student who gets this problem wrong and can't figure out where to go can never advance. So we have to give them the hints. So I'm going to use a hint strategy. And no hints yet. Let's create a new one. Once again, I've got these typed out. So my sort of theory on hints is the first hint should get the ball rolling for a student, but not solve the problem for them. So here I've chosen to give them the equation I think they would need, highlight that, oh yeah, gravity is your acceleration, and I've even gone so far as to plug that in, but I've left out two things that I think would just solve the problem for them. So now I've created one hint, then let's create the second, in this case, final hint that will give them the answer. This is a trick. I will go over this trick in another video, but the short version is if a student asks for these two hints, in this case, the work is completely done out for them, and then it just says explicitly the answer is 1.8 seconds, type 1.80. We can see what that looks like if we test drive the system. So test driving here, if I type in minus 1.8, there's that message about watching your sign. If I go to hints, here's that first hint that sets it up, and then the second hint that completes it out and tells the student type in 1.80. Yay, we got it right. We'll talk about credit and partial credit in another video.